UFC 316 this Saturday from the Prudential Center in Newark, New Jersey. It is the rematch you did not ask for, but the UFC is giving it to you for reasons. I don't know. Merab Dvalishvili, actually we know the reason, but it's okay. Merab Dvalishvili versus Sean O'Malley in the main event for the Bantamweight Championship. Sean O'Malley has been on an absolute heater since losing the championship. He has fought a total of 0 times, and he's been given the rematch with a champion who has actually defended his championship against an actual contender, not Marlon Cheeto Vera. Anyways, that's the main event in the Bantamweight division, 5 rounds. Co-main event, the other Bantamweight Championship on the line, the female Bantamweight Championship. Juliana Pena defends against Kayla Harrison. We've got the debut of Patchy Mix on this card as well. And maybe and hopefully we actually get a main event this weekend that doesn't get canceled seconds before the fight. So folks, before we get into the video, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for some more weekly UFC predictions here on the channel. The PFL returns next week, so we're going to have that going on the channel as well here on Greedo Plays MMA. Go hit that subscribe button down below. We are getting closer to 1,000 subscribers. Let's make that happen. On the main channel, Greedo Plays Daily MLB and NBA Best Bets. Okay, on to the first of our 13-fight card. We're going to kick things off here with a fight that just got added in the lightweight division. Markel Mederos takes on the UFC debuting fighter and Mark Choinski. I'm taking Markel Mederos to win this fight. Now, I would not bet this. First of all, I would not bet a minus 250 favorite for Markel Mederos. I think he'll win. He's a 2-0 fighter in the UFC. If you remember, he was scheduled to fight Blachowicz last week, and we did a full breakdown on that fight last week. Fight got canceled. Mederos had to pull out, and now he's already back. He's going to come back the week after and fight here in New Jersey instead of Vegas. Anyways, Blachowicz ended up winning his fight yesterday with the UFC. He got the UFC debuting fighter in Michael Acewell. Oki won the fight by decision. Anyways, Mederos is here against Mark Choinski instead. Mederos, a 2-0 fighter. We talked about him last week. Wins over Landon Quinones and Austin Hubbard on the regional scene. He showed the power and on the contender series as well. We have not seen that so far in the UFC. The Quinones fight again, won by Mederos. The Austin Hubbard fight, we said it last week. I'll say it again. Too close for comfort, in my opinion, for Mederos. You're a guy who's trying to rise the ranks. You're 10-1. He was a favorite last week in the Oki fight, obviously before the fight got canceled. I don't like a competitive split decision with Austin Hubbard. I'm just going to be honest with you. His opponent, the Shark, Mark Choinski, he's a Rufus Sport MMA guy up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 8-0 professionally. When you dive deep into this record, though, I don't like it. I'm just going to be honest with you. Fighting in Anthony Pettis FC, and I didn't know Anthony Pettis FC did fights like this. But Mark Choinski fights a 2-8 Reese Archer back in October of 2024. Now, that wasn't his original fight. He was supposed to take on Bobby Lee, a former Bellator name who lost 3 fights over there. Soren Bach and Nick Brown beat him. Anyways, though, I don't like when you fight. I mean, again, I don't care that, you know, oh, it was a replacement fight. When you're fighting 2-8 guys on your way to the UFC just 3 fights ago, I just don't like that. Again, early in your career, sure. Like, I remember, I think like Colby Covington fought Jay Ellis, I think, at one point. Or he fought a fighter who was like 1597. I think it was Jay Ellis. But that's, again, when you're first starting and that's your first or second fight, third fight, sure. When you're 6 fights into your pro career and you're fighting a 2-8 guy, I just don't like it. And I don't really love the talent in Anthony Pettis FC. I'm just going to be honest. They haven't really had the best guys there. He beats a 7-3 John Simon for the Anthony Pettis belt. And then he beats John Ramirez by submission in the first round. But that's an 8-7 guy, and that's his last fight before the UFC. He was supposed to fight Zach Zane, who, again, has been around. He's a Bellator guy. He's 15-15. I didn't even know he was on Power Slap. I don't watch Power Slap. Anyways, like, would that have done much for Mark? Probably not, but it's just another name he could add on his resume. The best way he's going to win this fight, obviously, is on the ground. Mederos is going to try to outstrike him. I just don't think Mark's going to have that much success grappling. He was scheduled for a fight in 2 weeks, so he has been preparing for a fight. Mederos as well. I'm going to take Markel Mederos by decision. Now, again, I don't love this fight for the reason that Mederos just pulled out of the fight last week, and now he's already back. Again, I don't know the circumstances around his pullout against Blachowicz, but you know, it's weird. Now you're just getting reshuffled, and sure, you have a much easier opponent now. You are basically just worrying about the grappling of Mark here. I don't think Choinski has a chance of outstriking Markel Mederos, and ultimately, right, I think Mederos is going to win this fight by decision. I think he'll probably win every single round. I think, again, this fight's pretty much just dependent on his ability to stuff takedowns, and he should be fine. Again, the circumstances, though, just surrounding this fight is a little odd to me, but I am going to take Markel Mederos to win this fight by unanimous decision. Let's go on to our second fight of the night, and we move now to a matchup here between the minus 485 favorite and Quillian Salkilld, and he'll be taking on Yanal Ashmouz. So Salkilld with a huge victory in his last fight. beats Anshul Jubli in Jubli's third fight in the UFC. Quick knockout, got Jubli out of there, won the fight in 19 seconds on that second Strickland and Duplessis card. Salkild's back, and he's got a step up in competition, don't get me wrong, in the Israeli Yanal Ashmouz. 8-1 professionally for Ashmouz, 2-1 so far in his UFC run. His first fight, a win over Sam Patterson. His second fight, a loss to Chris Duncan, and then a win over Trevor Peek in his last fight, where Ashmouz really went to the wrestling, took Peek down, and gave him a different style of fight than what Peek normally wants to fight. Again, that southern mentality, I guess, out of Trevor Peek. Walk him down, get into a slugfest, while Ashmouz was able to switch levels and change things up. I don't know if he's able to do that here, though, against Killian Salkilld. I'm just going to be honest. I like what Killian Salkild's got. Again, I don't want to hype him up too much because of just one victory over Jubli. But we need to see more out of Salkilld, right? I mean, again, the win over Jubli's great. The Gage Young victory on the Contender Series by decision, good victory. Don't get me wrong, right? Salkilld showed that, okay, he can wrestle too, right? He's not just a pure striker. 9 takedowns in the Gage Young fight. And the Jubli fight, obviously, right? He just caught him really early in the fight. Now, did I think Jubli was going to stand a chance? Likely not. Again, I didn't think that the UFC's only male Indian fighter is all that great. Let's just be honest, he's not. So I don't know how to really approach this fight because Salkilld, he is going to have to sub takedowns in this one. I would be surprised if Ashmouz, again, is willing to fight a stand-up fight for the most part, right? We look at that Trevor Peek fight and see, all right, Ashmouz shot 18 takedowns in that fight. Went 9 for 18 total, but had over 8 minutes of control time. That's ultimately how he beat Trevor Peek. He threw Peek off of his game and really won every single round with his wrestling. You can make the case that Peek won the second. I think he likely did. But the first and third rounds, right, those rounds are affected and changed because of what Yanal Ashmouz does in terms of the grappling. So I think, the first round I think was a Peek round. Anyways, I think Salkilld, as long as he's able to stay off the back foot and as long as he's able to fight off those takedowns from Ashmouz, I think he should win. Ashmouz's loss in the UFC is to Chris Duncan. Now, Duncan's not a bad grappler in his own right, so they kind of cancel each other out in all fairness. But Duncan went out there, outstruck Ashmouz, and I think Killian Salkilld should be able to do the same thing. The only question for me is, can Salkilld get the finish? I'm going to go no, actually. I mean, look at how Gage Young fought him. I get it against Salkilld, looked to wrestle quite a bit in that fight, shot 22 takedowns, ultimately just outstruck Young in the fight, won every single round on one card, won 2 out of 3 on the other 2 cards. So I think he's going to have a little trouble getting Ashmouz out of there. I think Salkild's good. I just think, again, Yanal Ashmouz, not a horrible fighter. He's fought, he went the distance with Chris Duncan, who I get it is not a knockout threat. Knocked out Sam Patterson, which is a great victory, don't get me wrong. But also went the distance with Trevor Peek. Like, he does eat damage fairly well. I know Salkild's a minus 410 favorite, and I'd be very surprised if he didn't win the fight. But here I'm going to go with him to beat Yanal Ashmouz by unanimous decision. He's 25 years of age. Again, still a very young prospect, and he's 6 feet tall at 155 pounds. He's going to have a huge height advantage in this one. Ashmouz 5'9", Salkilld 6 feet. Yeah, I think the Australian should win. Give me Killian Salkilld to win the fight over Yanal Ashmouz by unanimous decision. We move on now to our third fight of the night, and we move to a matchup here between 2 Asian fighters. It is the UFC debut of Ju Sang-yu, and Jeka Saragih. We've got the South Korean in Yu, 8-0 professionally, taking on the Indonesian in Saragih, who is 14-4. I'll be the first to say it. I don't think Jeka's that good. I don't think that's a hot take. I'm going to be honest with you. Ju Sang-yu making his UFC debut, and I'll get to that in a second. Jeka's UFC run has just been, I mean, he beat Lucas Alexander. You're supposed to beat Lucas Alexander, let's just be honest. I think he was an Anthony Pettis FC guy, I think. But Jeka lost to Anshul Jubli. Don't like it. He got TKO'd by Anshul Jubli. His last fight in the UFC got subbed by Weston Wilson. Yes, Simpson, South Carolina kickboxer, karate guy Weston Wilson. Don't like that either. Yeah, I don't think Sadiq's very good. I will say something about him, like, he barely goes to the decision. Like, you're going to see pretty much a war or just, a guaranteed finish every time this guy fights. I'll give you that. I think he'll just get caught in this one, though, by Ju Sang-yu. I don't think Ju Sang-yu's some uber prospect, I'm going to be honest with you, either. Yeah, he's 8-0. I look at what he's done. Some good wins, but I don't really know always how to treat the Asian regionals, because he's not even a road to UFC guy. Like, if he was a road to the UFC guy, we can say, all right, he's won 3 straight fights to get to this spot. I understand why he's here. I don't know. Again, he's a pretty heavy favorite in this fight for a reason. You look at the odds, right? Yu's minus 845 favorite. Sadiq coming back at you at around plus 370. So, right, again, Ju saying you should probably win. I think both these guys are kind of undersized for 145. especially Jekka, 5'7", 5'8"-ish fighter who, I mean, his entire game is walk you down, eat damage. I get that. He fought such a horrible fight in the Weston Wilson fight, though, man. He let Weston Wilson go from submission to submission. He let Weston Wilson take him down. That was a fight that a lot of people, and myself included, thought Jekka was going to go out there and win. He was a minus 360 favorite going into that fight. So I don't understand. He beat Lucas Alexander, and he showed, okay, yes, he can tag you. And if Jekka, again, gets the right opportunity, he's going to, he's going to hit on the mark. I think Ju Sang-Yu's too good of a striker to allow that to happen. I feel like Jekka is just a little kind of out there at times, a little too wild. Yeah, I don't know. I believe he's the only Indonesian UFC fighter too, and not that that really matters. I think Ju Sang-Yu is just better. I doubt we see this fight hit the mat, even though it does appear that Jekka has a clear, hole in his game in terms of the grappling. But I think Ju Sang-Yu should win. If anything, I doubt the odds are all that good for fight to not go the distance because, I mean, Jekka's had all but one fight go the distance, and he's at 18 professionally. I think Ju Sang-Yu, again, this is just a fight to kind of propel him into the UFC ranks. I'll be honest, again, I don't think Jekka's good at all. I think Ju Sang-Yu wins this fight by first round knockout. 94% of voters on Tapology are going with you, 6% going with Saragih. Again, yes, I think Ju Sang-Yu is going to win the fight by first round knockout. Let's move on now to our fourth fight of the night, and we move now to a matchup here in the women's flyweight division. It is Kong Wang versus Ariane Lipski. I'll be honest, I don't know why Kong Wang's already been given this opportunity. Let's just be honest, guys. If she wasn't the Joker persona, if that wasn't her thing, right? She's trying to be Marcus Perez. I kid, but still. If that wasn't her thing, and if she wasn't Chinese, would she really be getting this opportunity? Probably not. I know what the UFC's doing, right? They're trying to pump up Kong Wang for that next China card, even though the last time she was in China, she lost to Gabriela Fernandez. But yeah, I mean, Wang Kong won her last fight against Bruna Brazil, the MMA nerds fighter they don't tell you about. Same with Yaco Moises, who just got knocked out by Jordan Gordon. Anyways, all right, she won that fight. She's supposed to win that. Here's the thing, though, guys. Gabriela Fernandez in her biggest fight in a UFC run, and I get it, it's Gabriela Fernandez. Does anyone care? No. Was I cheering for Kong Wang for the betterment of the sport to beat Gabriela Fernandez? 100%. It's way more exciting having a fighter like Kong Wang than Gabriela Fernandez at an MMA Masters, with all due respect, right? But Gabriela Fernandez should be getting the Ariane Lipski fight, let's just be honest. Instead, she gets to fight Julia Stoliarenko. A stylistic, tough fight for her. Because Fernandez is a good grappler, decent kickboxer, right? But Stoliarenko, if she gets you on the ground, her armbar, that's the only way she's ever won. If she gets you in an armbar, ask Jessica Rose Clark, it's nasty, right? I think Fernandez will win that fight. But I'm just comparing, these opponents, right? Fernandez beats Kong Wang. She gets Julia Stoliarenko, who's 9-6, who can be dangerous and is better than her record indicates. And then Kong Wang gets an Ariane Lipski, who's lost back-to-back fights, who's in the top 15. I mean, it's such an easy way to get Kong Wang in the rankings. Don't get me wrong. She's going to get fraud-checked as she continues to rise up the ranks, right? And she's already been fraud-checked. The UFC's just trying to make you forget about that, probably because the card was in China. It was in the middle of the night. Nobody watched it. They want you to forget about this, right? And they're going to strategically work Kong Wang up the rankings. I mean, we've seen this time in and time out with the UFC, right? They'll give her God, who's she going to fight next? They'll give her who's even higher in the rankings? They won't give her Justividius. They might give her Macy Barber because they think she can beat Barber. Or they'll give her, yeah, I could see that. Or they're going to give her a Kaylin Kuchagian, who's still high in the ranks, lost 2 straight fights, but they want Kong Wang to, again, keep rising up the ranks. So Kaylin Surminara, however her name is now. Kong Wang's going to be Ariane Lipski. Lipski coming off back-to-back losses to Jasmine Jasdavidius and Karini Silva. Are those tough fights? Oh, yeah, definitely. They are. Right? And Lipski's whole thing coming into the UFC, I remember when she was in KSW, she was the queen of violence, right? She would have really fun fights. Sure, I mean, she outstruck JJ Aldridge. She subbed Casey O'Neill back when Casey O'Neill was kind of, no, she did not fight anymore in 2023, late 2023. De Silva outstruck Melissa Gatto, which is great because Gatto was kind of a credentialed striker in the past. She outstruck Mendy Bohm like Melissa Gatto, credentialed striker, was supposed to be good in the UFC, simply put was not. Yeah, I just don't see it at all for Ariane Lipski here. I think if she tries to take down Kong Wang, there's an advantage down there. The thing is, she just got out-grappled in both of her last 2 fights, and maybe she goes back to it, but right, we saw Jasdavidius submit her and out-grapple her. We saw Karini Silva go to the well multiple times wrestling against Ariane Lipski as well. I don't know. Yeah, she subbed Casey O'Neill, and she got a takedown against Gatto as well, and that seems like it's a pretty, wide-open hole in the game of Kong Wang. I get that. I would just expect Wang to outstrike Ariane Lipski in this one. I don't think she's gonna get a finish. Again, I have not drank the Kool-Aid that hard on Wang. Like, she's good. Is she an automatic finisher though at 125 pounds? No. She beat Victoria Leonardo, who is one of the worst UFC flyweights on the roster, let's just be honest, and then she got all that hype around her. She lost to Gabriela Fernandez, and then she beat a low-level Bruna Brazil. And now she's getting a fight in the rankings. And they gave her the best fight for her in the rankings. Past this, again, they will strategically work her way up. I don't think she is a legitimate force at 125 pounds. Trust me, she's going to lose eventually. As soon as she gets a high-level fight, she will lose. Again, Erin Blanchfield dominates her. Manon Fior would outstrike her for 25 minutes. Natalia Silva would do the same exact thing. Hell, I think Nama Yunus would probably beat Wang. I could see them doing that, actually. Miranda Maverick would beat Wang, too. Jazz Davidius would beat Wang. Like, all these fighters, Jessica Andrade, I don't know if Andrade would beat Wang at this point. I don't know. That one would be tough. But all those fighters would beat Wang, and I just, yeah, Lipski's not that great anymore. Let's just be honest, right? She's been beat 10 times. Wang wins this fight by decision. Expect a lot of striking and Wang to come out on the upper side of it. Better side of it. Yeah, give me Wang. All right, let's move on to our next one. We go now to a matchup that was just put together a couple days ago. Actually, yesterday. Chaos Williams versus Andreas Gustafsson. Gustafsson was supposed to fight on that card last week. Chaos Williams has been booked against several opponents on this card. Originally supposed to be Eros Medic. He was supposed to fight Albert Tavajasyan for a whole 4 hours until that guy failed his physicals. So they settled on Chaos Williams now versus one Andreas Gustafsson. Not a bad fight, right? Gustafsson was supposed to fight last week. This is a guy now, I think professionally he's 11-2, obviously from Sweden. He was supposed to fight Trevin Giles and Jeremiah Wells last week. Well, it's originally supposed to be Wells, then Trevin Giles. Giles pulls out right before the fight. And now we get him versus Chaos Williams. I had concerns about Andreas Gustafsson coming into the UFC. I originally said, you know what, again, I'm not too high on the guy. I think he's okay. And I think he'll beat Trevin Giles, obviously, because I didn't think Trevin Giles was all that high level. Giles taking the fight on short notice. The problem is now Chaos Williams is an actual force in the weight class. Chaos Williams is good. If you're not on your A game, he's going to find a way to knock you out, right? And I brought up questions surrounding Andreas Gustafsson to the point where, okay, he won the contender, but he beat Pat Pitlick. That's a guy who is 30-something years of age. He got his last chance U-type shot in the UFC. He was, how old was he? He was 35. Beat Ryan Leninger before his before his Contender Series run. He was 2-1 in his last 3 fights. I raised concerns about that one. I'm not going to lie, right? Gustafsson wins, but I don't know. He lost to Joyton Lutherbach back in 2023, who was signed to the UFC for a whole 3 days before he popped for roids. Chaos Williams should mop the floor with Andreas Gustafsson, guys. Let's be honest. Someone's getting knocked out. I know, Chaos just got subbed and put out by Gabriel Bonfim by Darce Choke. 2 fights before that, though, a knockout win over Carlston Harris, a split decision victory over Orlando Bedoya. I think Chaos is good enough to beat Gustafsson. I really look at the striking exchanges in this fight and I say, okay, I think Chaos Williams is going to win. I think it's tough for Gustafsson to the point where, okay, this is your third, change in opponents in the last 2 weeks. And it is for Chaos Williams too, in all fairness. But Gustafsson was in Vegas, preparing for a fight in Vegas. Now, okay, you got to root up to New Jersey now for this fight against a guy who's better than the 2 guys you were originally supposed to fight, right? He went from Jeremiah Wells to Trevin Giles. I kind of feel like that's a lateral move a little bit. And then, okay, now you got to take on Chaos Williams, who, you saw his knockout against Abdulrazak Al-Hassan, put that guy to sleep for a whole, 6 minutes, right? I think it's just a really tough fight as a whole for Gustafsson. Stepping into this spot against a guy who hits like an absolute truck, a guy who's going to, I guess, bring the fight to you. Depends on the Chaos fight, but look at the Carlston Harris fight. That's my biggest example of why I think Chaos will win this fight. Walked forward, knocked out Carlston Harris in the first round in 95 seconds with a hook, or 90 seconds with a hook. I just think Gustafsson's going to walk into something. I think it's just too high of a step up in competition. Going from Pat Pitlick, respectfully, going from Pat Pitlick to Chaos Williams, come on now. I think Chaos should knock him out in the first round. Should be a fun fight, because again, if Gustafsson is going to win, he's going to find a way to connect on the chin of Chaos. But at the same time, Chaos doesn't get knocked out. That's another thing that's part of his game, right? He can dish it, and at the same time, he's going to eat damage too, and he's going to walk forward despite that damage. So I'm taking Chaos Williams here to beat Andreas Gustafsson. I'm going to take Chaos here by first round knockout. Let's Let's go on to our next fight here. We go to the heavyweight division. Sergey Spivac taking on Waldo Cortes-Acosta. I'm split on the fight. I actually am. This is one of the tougher fights in this entire card for me to pick. We've got the Moldovan here in Spivac, who is still only 30 years of age. I think something that gets forgotten about at times with him. Like, he is still young in his career. He's had 13 fights in the UFC. He's been in the top 15 for quite a bit. Hell, he fought Jailton Almeida. He's fought Cyril Gane in a main event. And Spivac is still fairly young. And now he's taking on Waldo Cortes-Acosta, a guy who's much younger in his career, but 3 years older than Spivac. He's 33. Now, Cortes-Acosta is coming off a win over Ryan Spann, knocked him out in the first round. I hate to say it, but I told you so in that fight. I didn't think Ryan Spann was too equipped to go up to 265, and that was just a bad stylistic fight for him to come up and fight. Well, this fight, guys, is dependent on if Waldo can stuff takedowns from Spivac. That's basically the question I'm going to ask you. Both guys kind of similar in size, right? They're both, I think, Spivac 6'3", Waldo's 6'4", and sure, does Waldo have a better striking game than Sergey Spivac? 100%, right? 100% he is better than Sergey Spivac striking-wise. But Spivac on the ground is a whole other animal. You didn't see that from his last fight against Jailton Almeida, where ultimately Jailton, took him or got him down, got him on the, took his back and just, started beating the crap out of him. But, and I've said this before, Jailton Almeida. I think Jailton Almeida is the easy number 2 in this weight class, assuming John Jones is gone soon, right? It's Aspinall, then it's Jailton. I think Aspinall will beat Almeida, but I just think Almeida is going to be a guy around the belt for a while. He's just going to be... he's going to be this generation's Curtis Blades. I think he's going to beat everybody else except for the champion. And maybe eventually he will win that title, but I don't know. I think Almeida's really good. And I think his grappling, and I haven't, it's rare that you get a fighter who can wrestle so well at the heavyweight division, who's Brazilian and has that good at jiu-jitsu, right? All those things combined, yeah, it's tough that you get a guy like that. I'm just going to be honest. And who's an athletic freak, that's Jailton Almeida. So I don't really put much into the Spivac lost to Almeida. It is what it is. You lost the fight against a good guy. It is what it is. The Marcin Tybura fight and the Derek Lewis fights, both of those, I was so impressed with Spivac. Immediate takedowns in the first round, immediately finding a submission, right? His losses in the UFC, guys, are Jailton Almeida, Cyril Gane, Tom Aspinall, and anything else is pre-pandemic. I get it. Waldo's on a run, and I've picked Cortes-Acosta quite a bit. I remember watching Waldo back in his days prior to the UFC. I remember watching him fight for the LFA championship in his win over Thomas Peterson, right? I don't think Acosta's that horrible. I just think this is a bad stylistic matchup for him, because I think Spivac is going to take him down immediately, and I think Spivac's going to get a submission. It's just that Waldo has not fought a guy with the grappling credentials of Spivac just yet, right? We saw Waldo have to wrestle in his fight in St. Louis back in May of 2024 against Robeles Despain, but obviously, again, Despain, that's a, karate guy, or I think it was karate. That's a pure Muay Thai kickboxer, right, who's just going to strike the entire fight. So obviously, he had to take him down. We saw Marcos Rodriguez de Lima back in 2023 take down Cortes-Acosta 3 times. I think I'm not going to say it's a gap in his game. I don't think it is, but it's just, this is all you have to deal with in the Sergey Spivac fight. If Cortes-Acosta is able to stuff takedowns, I will be very impressed, and I'll be very surprised at the same time, because if he's able to stuff takedowns out of Spivac, yeah, he'll beat Sergey, right? For as good as Sergey is on the ground, he's not that good on the feet. But ultimately, if Spivac's able to get that takedown, he's able to get the fight down to the mat, I'd expect this fight to be over fairly shortly. Again, just look at Spivac's last couple of fights in which he's won. Look at the win over Derek Lewis, immediately throws Derek Lewis and finds a submission there. You look at the victory over Marcin Tybura, gets Tybura to the ground. I was questionable about, okay, how's Spivak going to deal with the guy who's already beat him in the past? You can probably stuff his takedowns and just win kind of a boring striking clinch fight with him. Well, it didn't go too well for Marcin Tybura. He gets submitted right away with an armbar. I'm taking Sergey Spivac to go out there and submit Waldo Cortes-Acosta. He's going to get it done by first round submission. I'm surprised the odds are so close too. I mean, I get it. Cortes-Acosta's been winning, but if we get minus 125 for Sergey Spivac, I really like these odds personally. I know Sergey's a little undersized here for Cortes-Acosta. Like, Cortes-Acosta uses the entire 265. Spivac's really like a 235 heavyweight, but he should be able to win. I'm going to take Sergey Spivac to beat Waldo Cortes-Acosta. He's going to get it done by first round submission. We move on now to our next fight, and it is not our featured prelim. We have another fight before that. Azamat Murzakanov is going to be taking on Brandon Ribeiro. There's a reason the odds are where they're at for this fight, right? Murzakanov, a minus 590 favorite, taking on the plus 420 dog here in Brandon Ribeiro. You know where this fight's going. I know where this fight's going. Murzakanov is going to win. Kind of surprised they put this together. I really am. Now, this was not Azamat's original fight. It was supposed to be Johnny Walker. And he was supposed to fight last year on the Jones-Miocic card against Nikita Krylov, and Krylov's returned from the dead fight, and obviously Krylov ended up losing to Dominic Reyes. But that was a huge opportunity for Murzakanov. Doesn't get to have the fight, obviously. And Johnny Walker was going to be another huge opportunity for him as well. Walker has to withdraw from the fight. The UFC rewards Johnny Walker with a fight in China against Mingyang Zhang. Oh no. Murzakanov is going to go right through Brennison Hibero. I get it. We kind of, we kind of talked ourselves out, or we kind of just ruled out Brennison Hibero in his last fight against DR Nurgoje. Okay, Dyer was not as good as we thought he was. He wasn't on the roids anymore, I'm just going to be honest, and Hibero was able to finish him in the second round with the Kimura. Hibero is 2-2 in the UFC, fought Mingyang Zhang in his first fight, got knocked out. Lost to Magomed Gaziashulov by majority decision. Won a close fight in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada against Kyle Machado by split decision, and then beats Dyer in his last fight. That's all great, but now you take on the professional and Azamat Murzakanov, a guy who is just going to outstrike and put on a clinic, I think, against Brennison Hibero. I don't think the fight's competitive at all. I think the biggest question that you can ask yourself here is, will Murzakanov finish Hibero? And I think he's going to. I'm going second round TKO here for Azamat Murzakanov. The thing about Murzakanov and why he doesn't really have a huge future in the UFC, let's just be honest, is because of his age. He's 36 years of age, and I don't really know where he goes. Like, sure, again, we've seen old guys make runs for the belts before, and he is undefeated, so eventually, again, someone's going to have to beat him before he gets an opportunity, obviously. But he's that old, and he's 12th ranked. Like, I could see him fighting like a Rakic next. I could honestly see them giving him Blachowicz as well, because Blachowicz is coming off a loss. Even though he should have beat Carlos Oldberg. Oldberg is not good at fighting. Like, Ankalaev and Prohashka will beat the crap out of Oldberg, trust me. Prohashka, I think. Anyways, yeah, Hibero, 2-2 in the UFC. Again, the win over Machado is great, right? Good for him. The win that he had in his last win over Nurgoje, awesome. Azamat Murzakanov is just another thing on the feet, man. He is. Again, I'm not telling you he's going to all the way and win a championship. I'm just saying, like, again, relatively speaking, right? Murzakonov's a guy who's well in the top 15. Hibero, top 30, maybe. If we're feeling nice. A win over Dyer, who, again, came into the UFC with kind of a little bit of hype. I mean, I saw some, I saw stuff outside the UFC, didn't look horrible. I don't know. And then a win over Kyle Machado, who's not even in the UFC anymore, went 0-3. That's a big step up. Hibero's still young. He's 28, right? I think he'll be around for a while, right? I mean, he bought himself so many fights in the UFC by winning back-to-back over Machado and cashing as a plus 300 dog against Dyer, so good for him, right? He is well established himself as a UFC fighter now, and he's 28 years of age. He's 6'3" for the weight class. He is huge, right? So he's going to get a lot of opportunity. He's going to be much taller than Azamat Murzakanov as well. But again, Murzakanov, he is going to find a way to out-kickbox Hibero in this fight. I think he's going to do it fairly easily here. Murzakonov's 4 wins in the UFC are Alonzo Menefield, Dustin Jacoby, Devin Clark, and Tafon Chukwi. The Tafon Chukwi knockout was great, right? Flying kneed him and knocked him out. Devin Clark got him on the ground, TKO'd him down there. Dustin Jacoby, 3-round decision, and Jacoby coming off a win yesterday, right? By first round knockout like we predicted. And then, hell, Murzakonov's last fight, he win over Alonzo Menefield too, TKOing him in the second round. So I think Murzakonov's good enough. I think he's going to beat Hibero. And again, he's a minus 600 favorite in this fight for a reason. And I do think he's going to get a finish over Hibero. I'm going second round TKO here for the professional and Azamat Murzakanov. Getting Brennison Hibero out the way here. And sending Hibero back to kind of where he is in the weight class, I think, and that's a top 30-ish guy. So give me Murzakanov. I get it, the circumstances around the fight. They just needed a fight from Murzakanov, so that's why he's here. Regardless, I'm taking him to win this fight by second round TKO. Let's go on now to our featured prelim, and it's a matchup in the flyweight division. We've got a huge favorite for a guy who is lower in the rankings than the fighter in the red corner, and that is Joshua Van. He's taking on Bruno Silva here in our featured prelim. I have a question about this fight, and I was making the graphic and I'm going over the fight card before I make this video, and I'm thinking to myself, all right, Josh Van's a favorite. I expect him to be a huge favorite, and immediately when I look at the fight, I'm like, all right, Josh Van's gonna beat Bruno Silva. How is Bruno Silva ranked so high? What has he done to be ranked this high in the weight class? I'm just gonna be honest. And I think this is kind of what's happened in the flyweight division for so long, but okay. Bruno Silva's been in the UFC since early 2019, I think, right? Yeah, okay, late 2019. Whatever. He beats Khalid Taha, he gets popped for roids, whatever. lost back-to-back fights to David Dvorak, who was once ranked at the time, and Tagir Ulanbekov. So essentially, we're not even going to count the Kalataha fight. He's 0-2 in the UFC. Okay, you fight JP Buys. Well, anyone can knock out JP Buys, right? That guy had a glass chin. He was very easy to put away. So Bruno Silva knocks him out in the second round. He then knocks out Victor Rodriguez, who was never a staple in the UFC. He submits Tyson Nam. Okay, 3-fight winning streak, but you're still 3-2 in the promotion. And then you beat Cody Durden, which is a really good win. Don't get me wrong, he knocked out Durden, and Durden's been a guy in the top 15. But you're 4-2, and then you lose to Manel Kopp. You get styled on by Manel Kopp. He was in a flow state that entire fight. Manel Kopp's best performance of his career since his Ryzen days, don't get me wrong. And Manel Kopp, I think, will beat Royval in a couple weeks, I think. I don't know, Royval's good, though. That's going to determine the next title challenger by far. Even though it should just be Manel Kopp right now, why the hell do we have to watch Kai Kara France fight for a world championship? It doesn't make any sense to me. Anyways, he's 1-1 in his last 2 fights. Why? And Pantoja's already beat him, by the way. Crazy. But yeah, like, you get styled on in the Manel Kopp fight, and you're still ranked, what, 11, 12? Josh Van's 6-1 in the UFC. He beat Cody Durden as well. They gave him Rhea Teixeira, who isn't very good, just kind of a guy who's gonna, sit on his knees the entire fight, look to wrestle you. So Van looks good in his last fight on International Fight Week. He's always fighting on pay-per-views, by the way, on the undercard. The UFC loves Josh Van because he steps up and takes fights, by the way. All right, he's always available. He always is, getting on cards. He beats Cody Durden by decision. By the way, Josh Van fights are always fun, right? He outstrikes Cody Durden 165-70 in that fight. Back and forth war, just like his fight on Noche against Edgar Chairez. Wins the fight by decision. Back and forth, crazy fight again for Joshua Van. Lost to Charles Johnson. It is what it is. Charles Johnson's a top 15 guy now as well. Got knocked out against Charles Johnson up at Elevation in Denver. It was a good fight, though, and he's come back and he's won 3 consecutive fights since, and he'll beat Bruno Silva. Bruno Silva's thing is, okay, he's got a lot of power, he does. I think he's very chinny, too, and he's 35 years of age, and he's just undersized, too. He's a big guy for being 5'4", but at the same time, yeah, he's 5 feet 4 inches. He is a smaller guy for the weight class. Again, he's built, but he's a small guy. Josh Van is 5'5", too, but Josh Van's going to have a speed advantage here. Again, I think Bruno Silva is going to have a power advantage, but Josh Van will definitely win this fight, I believe. I'm going to take the fighter here from Myanmar, now training out of Houston, Texas. He's only 23 as well. Josh Van is young, and there's a reason, right? He's such a big favorite. Josh Van coming into this fight is a -535 favorite. Bruno Silva back at you at +400, right? Van's expected to win, and I firmly expect him to take the win in this one. It's just a matter of how he does it. I'm going to take decision, right? I feel like this is just going to be a Josh Van fight where he kind of just drowns Bruno Silva as the fight goes on. And you get a guy who's 35 taking on a 23-year-old. I'd expect the 23-year-old's gas tank to be just a little bit better. And the thing about Josh Van, too, is he hasn't even, hit his prime yet. Let's just be honest. He's 23, right? So I think he'll beat Bruno Silva. I think Silva's going to try to come forward at times. I feel like, Bruno Silva's probably just going to sit on the back foot here. He'll probably sit on the back foot, try to counter. I think Josh Van, again, should be in a really good position to win this fight. I would expect him to push the pace. I'd expect him late in the fight again to be in Bruno Silva's face. Really, Bruno Silva found himself, just playing defense the entire time against Manel Kopp. So Van again pushes the button. He should win the fight. I'm taking Josh the Fearless Van to win this fight by unanimous decision here in the featured prelim over Bruno Silva. Again, it speaks lengths to how much the UFC thinks of Josh Van, to the point where he's in a featured prelim on a Merab Sean O'Malley fight card. That's a big deal. So I'm taking Josh Van to win the fight by unanimous decision. We go on now to the first fight on our main card, and it is a matchup here in the welterweight division. Vicente Luque taking on Kevin Holland. So Holland is back, and I think he definitely has momentum yet again. We were talking about his last fight against Gunnar Nelson. If he lost that, the UFC wasn't going to cut Kevin Holland because he's always there for them. And he does have a pretty big fan base, and he is a well-known fighter. But we were saying, all right, if Kevin Holland loses to Gunnar Nelson, then that's 5 out of 6 losses for Holland. And we were saying, all right, they're gonna keep him around. They'll give him guys coming off the contender that they know he can beat, or just old vets they know he can beat. But I wasn't expecting him to beat Gunnar Nelson. He does it, looks good in the win as well, wins it by decision. Now he's back on track. And I think now when we look at those losing fights that Holland has had, okay, it's the champion Jack Della Maddalena now in a split decision. Michael Venom Page by decision. Okay, that wasn't a great fight for Holland. He got really frustrated in that fight, ultimately lost by decision. A win over Michal Zolshashek. We'll take it. Roman Dolidze loss. Again, Holland technically an injury. He was going to lose the fight, don't get me wrong. Dolidze, though, coming off a victory over Vettori, he's now probably, you know, in the top 7 in the weight class, top 6 in the weight class. Not a horrible loss. Then you get subbed by Rainer de Ridder. I mean, I saw the one coming from a mile away. De Ridder's now going to fight Robert Whittaker. He just beat Bo Nickel. I don't think that's a bad loss at all, right? So now Holland's getting Vicente Luque, and Luque showed that he's not completely washed in his last fight after that just embarrassing performance, let's be honest, against Joaquin Buckley, a fight where it just felt like Luque was very hesitant to throw. He was just kind of biting on every feint that Buckley threw. And don't get me wrong, right? Buckley's now a guy who's in the top 5. He's about to fight Kamaru Usman in Atlanta next week. We'll get to that fight when we get there, right? But Buckley's essentially a fight or two away from the belt. But of course, we've got a log jam at the top of the weight class because of Islam Makhachev being scared to fight Ilia Topuria. Just saying. Anyways, Luque, he submits Themba Gorimbo really quickly in that fight. Luque was actually a dog in that one, but Luque submits Themba, Anaconda choke, looks good in doing so. It's been a lack of activity for Luque, though. He had that thing, though, right prior to the RDA fight where he had internal brain bleeding, and I was like, all right, is this guy really still there? You know, is he going to be what we think out of Luque? And the RDA fight was good. The Buckley fight, again, that's the thing is, the Luque we got in the Buckley fight in Atlantic City, New Jersey, that's what we were expecting in the RDA fight. A guy who's really hesitant, you know, doesn't really take damage all that well. But the Themba fight, it just, you know, ended really quickly, and Luque was able to avoid damage, and he was able to find a sub. I mean, one would think, okay, yeah, if Luque is going to beat Kevin Holland, it's going to be by submission, right? It has to be. Guys, Kevin Holland at 170 pounds is hard to take down. He is, right? You look at his losses, okay. Dolidze took him down. That's an 85 fight that Holland took on short notice. Rainer de Ridder, that's an 85 fight. Holland is so much better at welterweight. And look at the Gunnar Nelson fight, right? Gunnar Nelson wasn't just able to bully Kevin Holland on the ground because Holland, again, is at 170 pounds. And he, you know, has, you know, I guess a strength advantage against a lot of these guys at welterweight. Because he's just outsized at 85. There's no other way to put it. He is. So I'd fully expect Kevin Holland to beat Vicente Luque, right? I think he's going to be able to fight off the takedowns of Luque. When I think about Luque too, right? We've seen his wars in the past, right? We saw the war against Wonderboy, the wars against Nico Price, right? He's been able to go back and forth and have really fun fights. I just don't know what Vicente Luque, what damage he can take at this point of his career. He's only 33, but he's just taken so much damage, and Luque has had 22 fights now in the UFC, and he's been through so many wars because that was just Luque's style of fight. Really, you know, when he went on his big run, it was just, all right, I can take damage, I can eat damage, and I'm going to throw it right back at you. The Wonderboy fight at UFC 244 is still a really great fight. Wonderboy breaks both of his hands trying to outstrike Luque, and he does, obviously, and Luque forced a firefight out of Stephen Thompson in a fight in which Luque was favored in, right? It's a very good fight, and Luque takes so much damage from Wonderboy. Gets dropped multiple times in the fight, but Luque's still pressing forward. That was his entire thing. The thing is, I don't think he's able to do that anymore. Just the damage he took in the Jeff Neal fight was crazy. I mean, Luque goes into zombie mode, but Neal is consistently battering him the entire time, and eventually, right, Jeff Neal wins it by third round TKO, something that we were like, all right, Luque, you know, he's never going to get knocked out. That's kind of his game. I just don't think he has that anymore. Yeah, he submitted Themba in the first round. If he catches you in a sub, right, Luque still has that. My thing is, I don't think he's able to get Kevin Holland down just because Holland's at 170 pounds. And I think Holland's going to force him to fight a striking fight. And guys, this might sound crazy. I'm taking Luque to get knocked out here. I'm going Kevin Holland's second round TKO. I think Holland's going to find that shot. Holland, just for MMA years, he's much younger at 32 than Luque is at 33. He just does. And Holland's going to have a crazy reach advantage in this one. Luque's going to have trouble fighting a firefight if he's forced to fight that. 81-inch reach for Kevin Holland, 76-inch reach for Luque. Holland is 4 inches taller as well than Vicente Luque. I mean, there's a lot of things I think personally going Kevin Holland's way in this fight. Grappling-wise, yes. Is Luque better grappling than Kevin Holland? He is. How is he going to get the fight down? I mean, yeah, again, one would think, oh, okay, Kevin Holland's grappling isn't that great. His wrestling isn't that great. I'm going to make the case that's just at 185 pounds. Tell me a fight where Holland's been out grappled at 170. I mean, he subbed Michael Chiesa back in 2023. That's a fight at 70. I know Chiesa, again, not a pure takedown threat, but right? I mean, he hasn't been subbed yet at 170 pounds. Kyle Dawkins, I guess, but it was a no contest, and there was a headbutt in there, and that's the reason why Holland got subbed. So I'm still yet to see him get out-grappled at 170 pounds, right? Brunson was at 85. Vettori was at 85. Brendan Allen was at 85. Thiago Santos was at 85. Dolidze, de Ridder. He doesn't lose grappling fights at 70. And honestly, at 170 pounds, we've seen him against grapplers in the past. Chiesa, Nelson, and he's come out on the right end of that. Hell, even a Tim Means, who were like, all right, like maybe the Dirty Bird's going to grapple. Alex Oliveira, too, right? We were like, all right, maybe Alex Oliveira is going to grapple Kevin Holland. We'll see what happens. Well, no. Holland's been able to fight off all these grapplers at 170 pounds. He's just a better striker than these guys too, and I just don't know how Luque is able to eat damage in this one. I'm taking Kevin Holland to beat Vicente Luque, and I'm taking him to win it by second round TKO. Let's go on to our next fight here. It is the UFC debut of Patchy Mix. It's about damn time he's been freed from that Bellator PFL contract. I don't know what the PFL's doing. Like, you have so many great fighters, and you can't re-sign them. You're shooting yourself in the foot. You lost Aaron Pico, he's here now. You lost Patchy Mix. Patchy Mix might have been the best guy that PFL had. And I get it, pure excitement level. Maybe, again, Mix isn't entirely there. But on a pure technical and skillful standpoint, Patchy Mix is one of the best fighters in the world. And you just let this guy go for free? I mean, I get it. It's not like, professional sports where you can just trade the guy. But I mean, hell, Ben Askren and Demetrius Johnson were traded for each other at one point, I'm just saying. It's just a shame, though. Like, that is just Patchy Mix's exit from Bellator. If you were to compile a list of the greatest Bellator fighters of all time, Patchy Mix is on that list. 9-1 with his only loss being to Juan Archuleta back in 2020. The run that Patchy Mix is on right now, I don't think is getting talked about. I get it, the second Magomedov fight, which, by the way, I don't know why it happened. It was just a weird booking. The second fight against Magomedov, okay. He barely won. And I thought he won. I thought it was too close to my liking personally, and it is what it is. He won the fight, though. I think we need to talk about the fights he had prior to the Magomedov fight, okay? The run he went on when he submits James Gallagher, I get it. Beating James Gallagher in 2021 wasn't what it used to be, but that was only Gallagher's second loss at the time. He beats James Gallagher, beats Kyoji Horiguchi in a 5-round decision. Horiguchi now signed to the UFC as well, again, and he out-grapples Horiguchi for 25 minutes. Great win for Patchy Mix. He then goes out there and subs Magomedov. When Magomedov used to have a bunch of hype around him, he was a guy who, his only loss was to Piotr Jan in a close fight in ACA. And Patchy Mix went in there and choked him out with the guillotine choke in the second round. And then he gets to fight in the finals of the Grand Prix against Raufein Stotts. I believe Stotts was the champion at the time. Yeah, he had to have been. And Patchy Mix knocks him out in the first round, hits him with the knee in the first, and puts Stotts out cold. Now, Raufein Stotts is going to be on a PFL card coming up. But anyways, puts Raufein Stotts out cold. The second guy to ever knock out and beat Raufein Stotts, only behind Merab Dvalishvili. And then Patchy Mix then goes and beats Sergio Pettis, who's the champion, because you had to win the Grand Prix just to get a shot at the World Championship. Sure, again, Patchy Mix was the Grand Prix champ. He had won the $1 million. But then you still have to fight for the World Championship, and he goes out there and subs Sergio Pettis. Again, the Magomedov fight, it is what it is. It wasn't his best performance. He still won to keep the 20-1 record. And he was supposed to fight Leandro Higo in November, but of course, Bellator/PFL, or just the PFL at that point, had to cancel the card because they're canceling a lot of stuff now, and they wanted to get rid of Bellator. So now Patchy Mix is in the UFC. It's weird because, by the way, guys, Johnny Eblin's still defending his Bellator championship in a couple months in Cape Town, South Africa. But you got rid of your Bantamweight champion, Patchy Mix. You got rid of your heavyweight champion, Ryan Bader. He's now in Ryzen. I just don't get what the PFL's doing entirely. Now, Mario Bautista, and by the way, Patchy Mix has been training for a fight. He said this in the UFC fight, post-fight show 2 weeks ago when he signed on the dotted line to take on Mario Bautista. He said he's been in the gym, he's been waiting for a fight. Hell, he's been waiting for PFL to give him a fight. So I'm not too concerned with the gas tank and really just the, readiness of fight here for Patchy Mix. I'm not concerned at all. Mario Bautista coming off the win over Jose Aldo, one of the most controversial decisions ever. He did not beat Jose Aldo. I don't care what anybody says. He did not win that fight. Now, did Ayman Zahabi beat Jose Aldo? I still thought Aldo won, but I'm not too mad at that decision. Regardless, though, Mario Bautista, again, right, coming off the Aldo win. Okay, he clinched the entire fight, got Aldo back up, and just it was so boring. And I thought Aldo did enough. I mean, I think we need to bring back damage-based scoring, which is the way it should be, but I don't know. We're going to reward a guy for clinging on against defense for 15 minutes. Okay. It's a shame because Mario Bautista was having a pretty good run. Well, okay, the Damon Blackshear fight, he didn't beat Damon Blackshear. I didn't think, and a lot of people didn't think he beat Damon Blackshear back in 2023, right? And honestly, you look at Bautista's run, like, all right, he beat Ricky Simon, looked really good in that fight. That's by far his best victory, I think, in terms of, like, performance, because nobody thought he beat Aldo and nobody thought he beat Blackshear. But honestly, when you look past the Simone fight, he beat a 43-year-old Guido Canetti in 2023. I don't know how that fight was made. He beat Benito Lopez, Brian Kelleher, Jay Perrin. Those aren't big wins. And sure, again, right, he beats Aldo, good for him. He beats Ricky Simon, which is a really good victory. I don't know how he beats Patchy Mix. I just don't know. I don't think he's going to. I saw Damon Blackshear have a lot of success wrestling Mario Bautista. I did. Right? And I get it. Bautista, I think, had more control time, whatever. Like, Damon Blackshear got him down 4 times. Patchy Mix gets you on your back, it's trouble. Right? Patchy Mix takes your back, it's trouble. I think Patchy Mix is getting a submission here. I think he's going to. Again, I think we can't underestimate how good of a grappling game he's got. I was so impressed with the Magomedov win. And hell, even the Kyoji Horiguchi fight, too. Going into that fight, thought Horiguchi was going to win. I kind of thought Horiguchi was, and Patchy Mix was a plus 195 dog going into the fight. I mean, I remember thinking about that fight and saying, all right, like, I think Horiguchi's going to win. He got, Sergio Pettis closed his eyes and knocked him out for the World Championship in the Mohegan Sun. I kind of thought, right, Horiguchi's kind of the uncrowned champion right now, and he was going to easily work his way through the Grand Prix, and then Patchy Mix immediately eliminated him in the first round. Right, and just out-grappled Horiguchi. Had Horiguchi's back, was backpacking him most of the fight, and there's really nothing Horiguchi could do because he was just kind of concerned, he was concerned about getting subbed, right? He's concerned with his neck being taken. Patchy Mix is good, man. He's a good fighter. Don't let the Magomedov fight and his last one concern you. Again, it is what it is. I thought Mix was fighting too conservative of a fight. I think he knew that the UFC was coming up pretty soon for him, and he just kind of didn't want to screw it up. Yeah, again, it was a bad fight. I'm not going to lie to you. That was over a year ago at this point. But don't let the Magomedov fight confuse you or, take you away from picking Patchy Mix here. He is much better than Mario Bautista. His grappling is great. And again, we've seen Bautista struggle at times with some decent grapplers, and Patchy Mix, I just think, is on a whole other level. I think Patchy Mix is the top 5 fighter in the UFC. And I think, again, it's been a long time coming for this guy in the promotion, and we finally get to see it. Just expect to watch some really good grappling here, and expect Patchy Mix to call out Merab after, too. Guys, because the way the weight class is going, Piotr Jan's fighting Marcus McGee. We don't know where Umar is, but he's not going to get a title shot. Sandhagen's not getting a title shot, I don't think. This should be Patchy Mix's fight for the belt next. I'm so serious. If we can go out there and submit Mario Bautista like I think he's going to, I think there is a future championship fight coming up for one Patchy Mix. I'm taking him to go out here and beat Mario Bautista by second round submission. I think he's eventually going to find that back, and I think he's going to get a rear naked choke here. I'm going Patchy Mix to win his UFC debut by second round sub over Mario Bautista. Now, our next fight's Joe Pyfer and Kelvin Gastelum. That fight was scheduled just a couple months ago on the UFC Mexico card, and Pyfer had to pull out because he ate some bad Mexican food, so now he just hates the country of Mexico, he said. Okay. Other than that, like, one thing, nothing really changes on the prediction of that fight. So I'm just going to replay that old fight prediction, and then I'll see you guys for the co-main event for the Bantamweight Championship, the Women's Bantamweight Championship. So roll Pyfer, Gastelum, and I'll see you guys after. We go to our featured bout now in the middleweight division. Here's the plus 410 underdog, Kelvin Gastelum, taking on the minus 550 favorite, Joe Pyfer. We're not counting Gastelum as Mexican, because it doesn't fit the Mexicans win the entire card agenda. Yeah, we'll get to our next fight. I don't know. We'll see about Manuel Torres. Anyways, Gastelum Pyfer. Guys, I'm sorry. Kelvin Gastelum looks so fat here. I'm gonna be honest. I don't know. No, it's because he missed weight in his last fight. I get it. But Gastelum's taking on Joe Pyfer. If you remember Kelvin Gastelum's last fight, yeah, because he weighed 15 pounds over. Fight was supposed to be at welterweight. They move it up to middleweight last second. He wins it by decision. So the welterweight days and the days of fit Kelvin Gastelum are over. He's going to go back to 185 pounds because he doesn't know how to diet. I don't know. Again, I'm not going to harp on Kelvin Gastelum, but it's just like, all right, dude, like, you're undersized for 185. We've done this before. He's a much better fighter, 170 pounds. Guys, remember when he beat Chris Curtis and we're like, all right, Gastelum's back. That's a really good victory. He lost to Sean Brady, sure, but hell, guys, Sean Brady might fight for the belt in his next fight. I'm serious. They might give Sean Brady a title shot. Probably not. They're probably going to make him fight like Usman or something, if Usman's ever going to fight again. Or Shavkat. I don't know. Ian Gary. But I think Sean Brady's going to fight for a belt within the next 365 days. That's not a bad loss for Gastelum that he got subbed in the third round by Sean Brady. Gastelum then beats Daniel Rodriguez at 185 pounds. But again, we've been here at 185 pounds with Gastelum. He is severely undersized. And the same thing happens here. He is severely undersized against Joe Pyfer. Gastelum's 5'9". Joe Pyfer's 6'2". Pyfer has a reach advantage. Pyfer is the more athletic guy. And the only way Gastelum wins, I think, is if he can take Pyfer down. I really think so. And Gastelum went to the Wrestling Summit in the Rodriguez fight, something that Gastelum wasn't really doing that much prior to the Daniel Rodriguez fight. Obviously, again, that wasn't the sole reason he beat D-Rod, but there was some wrestling involved. Gastelum actually went 4 for 4 in his takedowns in that fight. I don't think he's going to be able to take down Pyfer all that effectively. I don't think he's going to be able to go to that well multiple times. I'll just be honest, guys. I think this is just kind of a beatdown by Joe Pyfer. I'm not going to lie. I don't think he finishes Kelvin Gastelum. I think when you look at Tapology, you have 87% of people picking this fight are picking Joe Pyfer. I'm not surprised at that. 60% are picking Pyfer by knockout. Guys, Kelvin Gastelum is one of these fighters, again, he is impossible to knock out. He just is. I saw Israel Adesanya go to war with this guy back when Izzy was really fun to watch. And you know, this was during Izzy's rise, obviously. Adesanya threw everything at Kelvin Gastelum, and Gastelum kept standing. And obviously almost had him at the end of the 5th round, but that just shows you the durability and toughness of Kelvin Gastelum. I get it. Oh, Pyfer hits hard. He broke Ngannou's punch record in the punch machine. Whatever. He doesn't, you know, I'm seriously, a tank could hit Kelvin Gastelum and he'd still stay up. I'm serious. You know, you can drop him, but are you going to finish him? No. I don't think he's going to get finished in this fight. I think Pyfer wins a decision. I get it, he's got a lot of power. But Gastelum is a fighter, man. Like, I think we forget, like, Jack Hermanson beat Joe Pyfer. They main evented that fight last year, which was just an odd fight. Pyfer bounces back, obviously, and beats Marc-Andre Barriault on International Fight Week at UFC 303. But I don't think Gastelum's able to fraud check him. Like, I don't think he says a fraud check, it's just a levels, it was a gatekeeper fight for... Has Hermanson shown up since the Pyfer fight? I don't think he has. I don't remember... He hasn't fought. What is Hermanson doing? He's 36. And he won the main event. I don't understand. He showed up to just, you know, kill a prospect and left. Anyways. I don't think Gastelum's able to do what Hermanson was able to do. Hermanson was able to really mix it up striking-wise. He's able to get Pyfer deep in the fight. Because Pyfer won the first 2 rounds in that one. And I think Pyfer, if he does fight a 5-round fight, which ultimately I think he's going to at some point. Again, I think, Pyfer is going to be a guy in the top 10 for a very long time. He's going to get, like, Apex main events. He's going to have to go 5 rounds. And sure, we'll see that adjustment if Pyfer is able to make that adjustment going the full 5. But this is a 3-round environment. Yes, Kelvin Gastelum could win the 3rd, but Pyfer is a really quick starter, and he's good early in the fight. He beat Hermanson in the first 2 rounds. Hermanson won 3 through 5 to ultimately win the decision. Gastelum can't do that here. It's a 3 5-minute round fight. 3 5-minute round fight. That's an odd way of putting it. And Pyfer should easily be able to take this one. I'm taking Pyfer by decision. He's a better striker than Gastelum. He's got the reach on him, and he does hit harder than Kelvin too. I don't think Kelvin's able to get to the legs. I think Pyfer's going to be piecing him up from range, and I don't think Gastelum's going to be able to crash in and find that, you know, he's going to be able to deal with the distance that he's, you know, has to cover in this fight. I think Pyfer is going to touch him up the entire fight. I think Gastelum's going to really struggle finding his, you know, getting going in terms of striking. And I just think Gastelum loses by decision. He's just a small guy for 185 pounds. And it's not like he hits that hard to the point where, okay, he can make up for that lack of size with his power. No, he can't go shot for shot with Pyfer. Yeah, okay, he can. He'll stay standing, but he's not going to win shot for shot with Pyfer. I don't believe so. I don't think he's a better striker than Pyfer. I don't think he is. At 185 pounds, I don't think he is. Yeah, I'm taking Pyfer. It's a changing of the guard. I mean, I don't think Pyfer should be nowhere near -550 favorite. I don't know what the odds are on Pyfer by decision, but if everyone's biting on Gastelum getting knocked out, I don't see it. Just Kelvin does... Guys, we saw Kelvin Gastelum fight prime Uriah Hall and didn't get knocked out. I get it. That was, you know, like, Uriah Hall was very, you know, gun-shy in that fight. But I saw him fight Tyron Woodley in Woodley's prime, somewhat prime. You know... We saw him fight Chris Weidman. He did drop Weidman in that fight, but Weidman's chin was gone at that point. Again, we've seen Gastelum fight Adesanya, Whitaker, Cannonier. Nobody knocked him out. Like, Pyfer's not going to knock him out, trust me. I remember when Gastelum fought Jared Cannonier, a lot of people thought Cannonier was going to knock him out in those 5 rounds. I predicted Cannonier by decision. It's kind of the same thing here. Like, yeah, I think he'll get outstruck, Gastelum will, but he's not going to get finished. I'm taking Pyfer by unanimous decision. On now to the co-main event for the Women's Bantamweight Championship. We've got the champion, the Venezuelan vixen, Juliana Pena, the 2-time Bantamweight champ, taking on Kayla Harrison, the former PFL featherweight champion. Here we go. Kayla Harrison's a huge favorite. For good reason. She's a -625 favorite. Juliana Pena coming back at you at plus 455. I get it. I thought Juliana beat Raquel Pennington. I really think so. A lot of people thought Raquel won the fight. I thought Juliana got it. I get it. The biggest part of that fight and the, you know, biggest moment of that fight is the Raquel Pennington knockdown in the 4th round. I thought Juliana won the first 3 rounds actually fairly easily. Kind of thought she had it banked at that point. You know? Yeah, Raquel looked good as the fight went on. I thought Juliana easily won the first 3. which kind of doesn't really work with Juliana's whole thing of, oh, I'm just going to out-cardio you. And look at the Sarah McMahon fight. Like, she might have been down 2-0 against Sarah McMahon until she got the sub in the third. Then we had a Nunes fight. The first time around, she lost the first round. I get it. She lost every single round in that second fight. Hear me out. I don't even think that was that bad of a fight, though. The second Juliana-Amanda Nunes fight, I actually didn't mind the fight at all. Anyways, Juliana, Kayla Harrison, right? Winner probably fights Amanda Nunes. Nunes is coming back, and who the hell else are you going to have to challenge for the belt at 135 right now? Ketlin Vieira? No, we don't care about Ketlin Vieira. We do not care. She just lost to Kayla Harrison as well, so no. Norma Dumont's probably going to fight Ketlin Vieira, I would think, and I would just assume Nunes is going to fight the winner of this fight. And the loser of this fight, good luck with Raquel Pennington again, probably. Or for the first time, anyways. Yeah, how does Juliana Pena beat Kayla Harrison? I think the way she's going to have to do it, and I've been watching some of the Juliana Pena pre-fight interviews. I saw that the first bit of promotion the UFC's ever done this year was a face-to-face interview, or at least on Zoom, between Juliana and Kayla for the pre-fight show for this week's card. They had Michael Chiesa and company doing the interview, basically, and Juliana made a good point. I'm not going to deny this. Kayla Harrison's never made 135 on the dot. Both times she's weighed in to fight at the UFC against Holly Holm and against Ketlin Vieira, those fights were 136 for Kayla Harrison. So she does have to make championship weight. I'd assume she's going to get down there, obviously. I mean, I'm sure she's tried to get down to 135 before, and she has. I mean, when you're at that point, though, against Holly Holm and against Ketlin Vieira, I mean, the weight cut is hard. Why cut the extra pound if you don't have to, right? I mean, you might as well just go in as 136 if you're already there, right? It is what it is. You're not, I guess she could have been a backup in the last fight against Vieira, but it is what it is. I think, that is a factor, and we'll see how that does affect the cardio out of Kayla Harrison, and that's Juliana's whole thing. She's saying, like, I'm going to wear you out. I'm going to drag you deep into this fight, and I'm going to find a way to beat you late because you can't go a hard 5 rounds against me. You lost to Larissa Pacheco in a 5-round decision, and you've never cut down to 135 pounds before. I mean, it's a valid point out of Juliana. It is. It's just, what does she have wrestling-wise against Kayla Harrison? Juliana's whole thing is that she says she's the best grappler in the weight class. She might not be wrong, in all fairness. Like, just look, and that's not even me, like, pumping up Juliana Pena. It's just, like, look at the weight class right now. I mean, other than Kayla, obviously, like, Norma Dumont, Aline Perez. Like, honestly, Pena's the champ. She can say that, in all fairness. She's subbed Amanda Nunes. She has all the right to say that she is the best grappler in the weight class. How is she going to do, though, when she's on her back against Kayla Harrison? Because unless Juliana's able to stuff takedowns, which I'll be damned if she does, and I'll be very surprised if she does, and I will give her a lot of credit if she's just able to keep the fight on the feet against Kayla Harrison, where even then, I think Kayla can likely win a striking battle against Juliana. But if she does just simply out-grapple Kayla Harrison, out-wrestle her, I'll give her that. But even then, like, is she going to go out there and outstrike Kayla Harrison? Unless, again, Harrison completely gasses like Nunes in the first fight, and Pena is always walking forward, and she's always throwing something at Kayla. I just think it's going to be a tough fight for Juliana. I think Kayla Harrison's probably going to be able to go to the well multiple times with the takedown. And I think, I'll give Juliana Pena this. I think she's probably able to stay out of submissions. I actually think she's going to. I think Juliana's good enough defensively with the grappling where she's not going to get subbed. Right? Like, Amanda had Juliana down for a while, and I get it, right? Nunes was using elbows. She was striking. She was punching on the ground when she had Juliana down there in the second fight in Dallas. But, there were opportunities for Amanda to try to get subs, and Pena was getting out the way of a lot of those. And yeah, she got subbed by Jeraine Duran to me. That was just really weird. But that was, again, she was going in for a takedown. Jeraine Duran to me, started wrenching on a guillotine. Eventually, she did get Juliana with that. She put her out with that. And yeah, Valentina subbed her back in 2017. I really don't care about that. Right? So I do think Juliana's going to go the distance in this fight. I think it's going to be, I'm going to be honest, 50-45. I just think Kayla's probably going to win every single round. I think we're going to walk away from this fight saying, though, all right, this wasn't really entertaining. We knew Kayla Harrison's better than Juliana Pena. This fight just, it just proved that. It's going to be Juliana trying to find ways off her back most of the fight. Again, Juliana's a good grappler, guys. She has a 23% takedown defense rate so far in the UFC. And I know a lot of that has to do with the Shevchenko fight. Nico Montano took her down in Sacramento back in 2019. I would get it. That was the first fight Juliana had coming off of pregnancy. But even pre-pregnancy, too, like, Kat Zingano was taking Juliana down. Amanda Nunes took her down 6 times. And sure, stylistically, she matched up really well with Raquel Pennington. Obviously, that's why she won that fight. I just don't see it here, guys. I'm gonna be honest. I hope Juliana wins. I'm gonna be honest. I think the weight class is more fun with Juliana as the champion because nobody in this weight class ever talks shit. And it's hilarious when Juliana talks shit. Is she the best trash talker? No. But it's funny when she does because at least she's trying to sell the fight. And sure, Kayla Nunes will sell itself. But the thing is, what happens after Kayla Harrison fights Amanda Nunes? Oh, we're getting to watch Norma Dumont or Kelton Vieira fight for the belt, or Juliana again. I'm serious. If Juliana loses, she's just to fight away again from the belt because no one else in this fight actually promotes fights. Or sorry, in this weight class actually promotes fights. Who in this weight class are you actually excited to watch? You might not, again, like Juliana Pena fights, but at least the press conference is going to be fun. That's been my whole thing about, I don't really mind Juliana as champion. I kind of want her to be champion. So even if she somehow beats Kayla Harrison, well, okay, if Juliana beats Kayla Harrison, it's not going to happen. We're going to have a serious conversation about Juliana Pena being in the all-time greats now. In the female weight classes. Win over Kayla Harrison and win over Amanda Nunes, where does that put her all-time? I'm serious. Of just women's fighters? That puts her in the top 10? She's maybe already in the top 10. That puts her in like the top 7. That puts her in the top 5, I think. She's not going to beat Kayla Harrison. But if she does, watch out. Kayla's a better grappler than Juliana, I believe, or better wrestler than Juliana. I just think that's what's going to really hurt Pena in this fight. I would be a little concerned Harrison going deep into the fight just because of the cardio, and I don't know if she can completely cut down to 135. We're expecting her to. That is a factor, but I do just think Kayla Harrison wins the fight. I'm going to Harrison by decision to beat Juliana Pena. Main event, rematch for the Bantamweight Championship. Merab Dvalishvili takes on Sugar Sean O'Malley. Did you ask for this fight? No. Did anybody ask for this fight? No, but here we are. I said this at the beginning of the video, and I still don't understand it now. So Sean O'Malley doesn't fight since the Sphere. Merab beats him. Dvalishvili, I didn't 50-45 him. I personally had 49-46. I guess the 48-47 card's there, but I really thought Merab won every single round until the last round. I thought Sean did win the 5th just because he caught Merab. Merab was kind of just, jogging that entire last round, but it's fine. Merab won the fight. He was up 4-0. He had the right to do that. Yeah, why is O'Malley in this spot? We know why he is. He's Dana's favorite. He was the first Contender Series guy. They love Sean O'Malley, obviously. There's a reason they forced Aljo to fight him 3 months after going 5 rounds with Cejudo, right? The UFC wants O'Malley to be champion, and they really hope he beats Merab here. He's not beating Merab Dvalishvili. It's just not happening, guys. O'Malley's going to be on his back the entire fight. It's that simple. I think the only thing going for Sean is that, okay, yeah, he almost got Merab or hit him to the body, hit him pretty well at the end of 25 minutes in the last fight. And O'Malley's saying, oh, he was hurt. Oh, that affected his conditioning. Oh, this, that. I don't care. I don't care about that. What this kind of strikes me as is if you remember, obviously you remember, Dricus du Plessis, Sean Strickland. The first fight, really competitive. I thought du Plessis won. Close decision, whatever. There's really no argument about Merab winning the first fight against O'Malley, but they rematched, did du Plessis and Strickland, and du Plessis showed huge improvements since the last fight. He really showed the gap in between him and Strickland in the second fight. And that was after both those guys had fought once. Right, Strickland had to go fight Acosta. Du Plessis beat his Real Adesanya, but I said, okay, I think the improvements that du Plessis has made is way larger than what Strickland has done. And obviously, du Plessis won the fight 50-45. Well, Merab beat Umar Nurmagomedov in a complete war in a fight where he was a dog in. A lot of people didn't think he was going to beat Umar. He wins the last 3 rounds, outstrikes Umar, takes down Umar, looked great. And there's no fight to base Sean O'Malley off of here. There was no Corey Sandhagen fight that we talked about. There was no Piotr Jan fight that should have probably happened. There was nothing. He's just immediately walking into another title shot, which doesn't make any sense. So what adjustments has Sean made? Well, you can say you've done this, you've done that, I've trained harder for this fight, I know what's going to happen now, I think my defensive wrestling is better. Sure, you can think that, but then when you walk into an octagon with Merab Dvalishvili, who is all cardio, all pace, and all go for 25 minutes, how do you adjust to that? Sean was gassed at the end of 25 minutes against Merab. He was kind of, he was getting gassed in the Marlon Chito Vera fight as well. I know he was still the big shot at the end of the fight, but look at how he was at the end of 25 minutes against Merab Dvalishvili. He stuns Merab, or at least he hits the body fairly well. He can't follow it up because he's so tired. I mean, because it's tough defending takedowns for 25 minutes because that's what he's going to have to do here. Merab's not stupid. Merab's not going to say, oh, I'm just going to knock you out. I'm going to outstrike you. No, Merab's going to out-wrestle him. Merab's going to put the pace on him for 25 minutes. And there's nothing O'Malley can do about it. There's not a damn thing Sean will do to combat Merab Dvalishvili here. O'Malley's only chance in this fight is if he gets lucky and chins him. That is his only hope. And that's not happening. He's not going to chin Merab, I don't think so. Merab immediately is going to take him down, and Merab's immediately going to be in a great position to win this fight. Because once O'Malley gets taken down once, the same thing's going to happen over and over and over and over again. His wrestling defense, simply put, just isn't good enough to face Merab, and his conditioning isn't good enough to face Merab. And that's not a hit on O'Malley at all. I don't think anybody's conditioning is good enough to beat Merab at this point in time. I mean, Merab's 34, so I mean, how long can he continue to do this? I mean, at least 3 more years, I think. And look at the weight class. I mean, who's going to challenge Merab at 135 pounds? If Umar couldn't do it, I expect Umar will be back in a title fight eventually, probably against Merab. But, like, if Umar can do it right now, Jan, we've already seen him get 50-45 against Merab. Again, Merab, guys, normally you look at the high takedown output and, oh, he attempts 50 takedowns a fight. He's not going to need to attempt that many against Sean because he's going to get them on the first rip. Like, I think, you might see him like 10, 11 takedowns shot by Merab all fight because he's going to be able to get them. He's going to be able, the guy is so strong, he's going to be able to clasp his hands. He's going to be able to be in there against Sugar Sean, and he's going to be able to drop him multiple times with the wrestling and just, constant pressure on the ground. Because, yeah, O'Malley can get back up, but then as we saw in the Sphere, that was the worst thing for him at times. He gets back up, O'Malley spends all his time fighting hands, trying to work his way. He's trying to cage walk to get back up, and then immediately Merab dumps him again, and you spent all that energy just trying to build your way back up. You finally get back up, but then you demoralizingly get dropped right back on your ass. That's just how Merab fights, and it's tough to deal with that because he doesn't get tired. We've never seen Dvalishvili tired in any fight, and I don't think this is going to be the first. I just don't think so. I kind of want to see Merab fight in Salt Lake later in the year. I wouldn't mind that at all. I know he's fought there before against Aldo, but I want to see 5 rounds of Merab in Salt Lake City. He'll win over there. I get it's at elevation. He'll win because his opponent won't be able to hang in there either. But I don't know. And what is the next fight for Merab? Well, Jan's fighting Marcus McGee. I actually think it's going to be Corey Sandhagen. I think it's going to be Corey coming off the Divas and Figueiredo win. I get it. Figueiredo got hurt, but you got to give the next title shot to Sandhagen at this point because Jan's backed up with McGee, which makes no sense. He's fighting Marcus McGee, but it is what it is. Jan's a fighter. He wants to stay active. What is Umar doing? Ducking Piotr Jan? I mean, that's all these guys do. I don't know, man. It's just, okay. And then, what, Song Yadong? Song Yadong's still a fight away, obviously, coming off the Cejudo victory. I doubt he's going to fight Cejudo again, but I could see him getting Umar probably. So, yeah, it's going to have to be Corey Sandhagen next for Merab. And I'd like to see that fight happen in Salt Lake City. I'd like it. Sandhagen's gas tank's not bad. I wouldn't mind seeing that. I think Merab would probably just bully Sandhagen the entire fight. And I give that's not a money-making fight for the UFC, but that's just another one of these like legacy-defining fights that Merab needs to have to continue to keep stacking these title defenses. And this is nothing. This is all this fight is against Sean O'Malley. It's just another title defense. It's just another one that's going to add onto Merab's legacy. But what does it do? You already beat this guy. I think he's just going to do it more impressively this time. I think he's going to do it. I think he's going to 50-45 Sugar Sean. I mean, once O'Malley, you can say what you want, or whatever the song is, a superstar, like that, that's great. The pre-fight theatrics are amazing. That's awesome. He's going to have a great walkout. Fans are going to be behind him in Newark, I think, even though this is Merab's kind of home territory up there in the Northeast in New Jersey. Sarah-Longo, obviously Long Island. That's great. The fans are going to be behind O'Malley. All the casuals are here to watch Sugar Sean. They're all going to be watching the fight on pay-per-view or whatnot because of O'Malley. That's great. And then Merab immediately shoots a takedown, puts him on his back, and then, constantly is pressuring him the entire fight. We've already seen this fight. We've already seen it. And Merab will win it again. So give me Merab Dvalishvili to beat Sugar Sean O'Malley. I don't think it's competitive at all. Unanimous decision. O'Malley, simply put, has nothing for Merab. Unless he gets lucky and catches him with one shot, he's not winning the fight. So Merab Dvalishvili will beat Sugar Sean O'Malley, and he's going to get it done by unanimous decision. So, folks, thank you all for watching our UFC predictions here for UFC 316. If you haven't yet, though, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. We'll be back next week for the UFC Atlanta full card predictions with Joaquin Buckley and Kamaru Usman in the main event. And the PFL returns next week as well. I believe they're in Nashville, so make sure to join us for that next week, folks. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. And Mamba forever.